name's Rhyannon Elliott and I'm the Acting Manager of Marriage and Relationship Education Unit at CatholicCare. The role of a facilitator is to guide the process. In most cases, this will mean being outside the process, being able to maintain objectivity and keep the participants on track to achieve the intended aims. A good facilitator is well prepared, and a helpful exercise for any facilitator is to imagine how your session might run, the people and personalities that might be present in the room, the issues, comments and concerns that might arise. A good facilitator is aware of their own views, values and red buttons or triggers, and can manage their own responses while keeping the group safe. It can be really good when planning your session to ask yourself, what are my red buttons and how will I manage these while facilitating the group and keeping them safe? The facilitator's objectivity is crucial, especially when the aim of the session is open, honest sharing, which is the case for the plenary listening sessions. I think it would be really helpful for a facilitator to take part in the listening session themselves beforehand. I think it would help with identifying where a listening session may go. It may allow them to get their voice out and get their opinions heard, because in the session that they facilitate, they're going to need to be conscious of running the process, not being part of the process. So they may want to answer a question or give their opinion, and to be part of a listening session beforehand means that that's been achieved. So I think that would be a great part of the planning process. It would also help for a team of facilitators to have a listening session together and then use that as a planning session for how they want the sessions to run for their parish. So the facilitator can manage the group best when that's their only job, which means that you're going to need somebody to take the notes of the group. So the scribe has to be confident in the role, they have to be happy to take on the role, they have to be able to take notes and keep a true and honest record of the discussions of the group. Now, as a facilitator, you need to be able to do three things: engage and continue to engage the group, manage the group, and know how to close the group. So let's talk about engaging the group. Actually, this starts in the planning stage with the space you choose. Your space needs to be warm, as does the welcome. Participants need to feel comfortable in the group, so make sure there are name tags or that everybody knows each other, that everyone is greeted warmly as they arrive. Consider having some refreshments to share during your session. As research has shown that participants are much less anxious when they have a hot drink in their hands. So the next part of the beginning is to explain the purpose of the session and to get some quick feedback from the group about what they think the session is about and what outcomes they hope to achieve. Now, this adds structure, which can be very important for some participants and allows you as a facilitator to establish some group rules. Now, these rules may come in very handy during your session if it comes to managing tricky behaviour. The rules can be around respectful, non-judgmental listening, whole group participation, confidentiality and safety. And it's worth mentioning here that people's relationship with their faith and with the church can sometimes be a very complicated and sensitive thing. Being invited to reflect can bring up feelings and emotions either during the session or afterwards. And it would be wise when setting the scene for the session to provide some avenues of support should your participants have the need. The Archdiocese of Melbourne and CatholicCare are two good places to seek assistance, and make sure you know the contact details so that you can provide them to your group should the needs arise. Another role of the facilitator is to set the direction of the conversation. So you might find this a useful thought when coming to decide on the topic that you wish the group to delve into further. So where there's consensus, it's an easy decision, but where there's a number of different topics and the group find it hard to make a decision, it's up to you as a facilitator to decide. In this instance, there's always the opportunity to convene another session of your listening group to deal with any other topics that require discussion. Let the group know the plans for the session, including timings. For example, we're going to have some personal reflection time, some writing, then some feedback to the group. We'll work through until this time when we'll have a break, and then we'll come back for more reflection and sharing, then collating our responses. That's just an example of some structure that you might give the group that you're talking to. Now, this adds to the safety of the group and will become useful when having to get the group back on task. So now we're going to talk about managing the group, and this means keeping the group on track to achieve your aims. The facilitator's role is to encourage the group to be as open and honest as possible. The plenary listening process has time for reflection and writing, and this is a good thing, as it allows the participants to get their thoughts onto paper before being asked to share. As the participants share their thoughts, encourage them to go deeper by asking open-ended questions, like, can you tell us more about that? Again, the plenary process has some great examples of these in what have I experienced in this area and how has another perspective influenced my own. Managing the group sometimes means managing tricky behaviour, and it's worth thinking about some of the scenarios you might encounter beforehand. These may include noisy or chaotic discussion without a clear purpose, continued interruption or talking by one or more people, disagreement with or criticism of the process, or even digressing from the process, derailing the discussions. This is where the shared aims of the session and the group rules can come in really handy. So drawing the group's attention back to these aims and to the rules can be a reminder of the purpose of the exercise and the need for respect in the space. Using the wisdom of the group can be helpful to manage critical or disruptive behaviour. Let's hear from the group about this, might be something you'd say. For participants with lots to share, it can be worth saying something like, I'm conscious of time and I need to give everyone a chance to speak, so perhaps jot down some thoughts or even come speak with me at the end of the session and we can include them in the group response. If you feel the group is going off on a tangent, come back to the question you're asking. Keeping to time is an important part of the facilitation role, so make sure you check the clock throughout your session and, where necessary, move on to the next step in the process. This is where the time you spent setting the scene at the start of your session really comes in useful. And lastly, closing the group. Closing the group well is a necessary element of good facilitation. In summarising the session and sharing about the next steps, you're showing the group that their time has been well spent and how their responses will be used. Next steps may involve another session with the group, so you may talk about plans for this session. It's great to get some feedback from the group about their experience of the process, their thoughts and their feelings. This feedback helps you as a facilitator. It goes without saying that thanking the group and acknowledging their contribution is very important too. My last piece of advice is to plan and not to underestimate the importance of the beginning of your session. Your welcome, scene setting, goal setting and group rules can make the difference between a fantastic and a disastrous session, so don't rush them. Remember too that as a facilitator you're also a role model. So if you want the group to listen respectfully, share honestly and stay on track, you lead the way.